Via Crucis is my interpretations of the 14 stations of the cross that were completed after 2 years of work and research in 2017. They debuted 2018 at St. Peter's Church in New York City, well known as the Art Church in that city. Early Christians enacted the Passion of Christ from his condemnation in Pontius Pilate's court to his crucifixion on Calvary by following the path Jesus took on the day of his crucifixion, Good Friday in Jerusalem. The stations are a relative newcomer, starting around 800 AD, about the time of the Crusades. It's a lot easier to walk around the church than join a march in Jerusalem. The original number of stations was 8, and this number gradually increased to 14. I was raised a Catholic. As an altar boy at St. Mary's Church in downtown Charleston, I was mesmerized by the sensual overload of the procession of the Stations of the Cross on Good Friday. The incense, the explicit paintings, pageantry, and light pouring through the stained glass windows together made an indelible cognitive furrow in my mind. This project uses the stations as a metaphor, which connects back to the original message of Christ, with similar foundations found in most religions. So, in everything, do unto others what you then have done for you. Love thy neighbor as thyself. These universal truths are, for me, the message of the stations. There are people suffering and dying, much as Christ did, every day all over the world. We must learn to embrace this universal suffering if we're going to live more than a Voltaire comedic farce. There are 14 panels measuring 3 by 2 feet to be arranged in a circle. The background color in the panels moves through the color wheel, starting with yellow for Station 1, moving back to yellow for panel 14 to complete the circle. The painting style changes throughout from cartoonesque to realism to abstraction. Symbols from Paleolithic to modern cultures are utilized. The themes of gender, race, climate, religion, culture, numerology, and dreams are explored. In addition to the stages, 2 more paintings are included. The Last Supper is modeled on Leonardo da Vinci's Last Supper. I've also been drawn to the book of Revelations, particularly to the woman of the Apocalypse, because of her power and femininity. These images hopefully represent powerful metaphors about universal suffering and can teach us how to embrace this universal experience today. The goal of this project is to bring the viewer into a quiet, personal space of awareness, via Crucis, the way of the cross. Station 1. Jesus is condemned to death by Pilate. Jesus' elaborate robes identify him as King of the Jews. The Paleolithic birdman, a ubiquitous shamanistic symbol, appears on the right. A man watching football on TV and a car show the contemporary indifference to what is going on here. From Hindu mythology are the 2 birds in the tree. One eats the fruit, an action which represents the sensual realm. The second bird is content not to eat the fruit, a non-action that is indicative of wisdom and spiritual bliss. Jesus takes up the cross, the instrument of Christian salvation. The young man, lower left, has his eyes closed. He is tuned out, oblivious. The bishop, lower right, acts as the intermediary. Imagery at the foot of Jacob's ladder pretends the nuclear and environmental destruction of the earth. Christ was crucified on the full moon. The image of the tree against the moon echoes the crucifixion. Jesus falls for the first time. A chimpanzee smoking a cigarette is the unmoved mover, Aristotle. How can an all-powerful Father witness this spectacle without interfering? Sailboat in the ocean. Life is ongoing. Jesus meets his mother. She knows the sorrow in every mother's heart who loses a child. Lilies of the field are associated with Mary. Lesson: view all who suffer as one, without excitation of the will. Look at the subject, even hostility, sublimely. Embracing suffering in the larger view, the world in Mary's Cape, is to me the metaphor of the cross. The feminine wipes the face of Jesus. She steps in to help in time of need. Suffering is transitory. Although unwilling initially, Simone helps Jesus. Like Simone, we can learn to carry any burden in a new way. Suffering is to be viewed as a universal, not a particular condition. Jesus is presented in a feminine form. The Cambodian woman was murdered by Pol Pot, and she remains anonymous. For all those who sleep in the dust from the Old Testament. Red and white Khmer squares appear here as well as throughout the several stations, acknowledging how Jesus suffered for all mankind. Jesus falls a second time. His ordeal intensifies. In the right corner is a white male, out of work, disabled, on the couch, watching TV. A fox gives the finger to the world. The male is consuming opiates and beer, all purpose gone. Electrical lines scar the earth. Jesus speaks to the women and children. The mothers bring their children with hydrocephalus, cleft lip and palate, leukemia. What kind of God is this? Jesus falls for the third time. His weakness is extreme. Yet Jesus gets back up. The American flag is shown coming apart, and the 50 stars are moving across the stations. The handgun and the rocket symbolize human violence. Jesus is stripped of his garments. You are dust, and to dust you will return. Another murdered Cambodian, this time a boy, appears, again reminding us that Jesus' sacrifice is on everyone's behalf. Jesus is fixed to the cross. Hard not to feel the pain Jesus experiences here, but we must try to see beyond our hostility. For surrealism to work, it must both be familiar and surprising. The denouement. Finally, the suffering for Jesus is over, but not for those who are left behind. But now we are better prepared to deal with it. We are all equal before Christ. The negative spaces in the ends of the cross are heads and arms genuflecting to Jesus. The Gnostic symbol is prominently displayed at Jesus' feet. Angel wings appear. Jesus is taken down from the cross. Water comes from his chest wound, a pericardial effusion, and symbolizes the essence of life in baptism. He is embraced by the feminine, who may either be Mary or Mary Magdalene. I had a dream on Easter night. I was climbing an endless tower that penetrated a nest. My granddaughter, Scout, was standing on the edge of the nest and gave me a hug as I came by. I know I'm going to die, and I accept that. How else is there going to be room for Scout? She will take my place with Sisyphus. The nest turns into Christ's crowns of thorns. Paleolithic man etched the phases of the moon on animal bone to serve as a calendar. The lunar imagery is the first known art. The tomb is empty of the body of Jesus, yet contains the cosmos. Jesus rises in the form of a winged heart. The intersection of the two smaller circles symbolize Christ and is a forerunner of the fish symbol, Vitruvian man, made famous by Leonardo da Vinci, represents modern man, whom Christ in his message of love made possible. Harmony requires love, creates beauty, and makes us happy. Love and harmony hold the cosmos together. The square around Vitruvian man represents the earth. The encompassing larger circle our universe.